Well, it's happened. Remember just a few years ago, all the environmental groups and politicians were saying leave it in the ground, talking about oil and gas and how important it was that we leave that in the ground, because if that all ends up in the air, we'll have runaway greenhouse effect and end up something like Venus on a cooler basis. Instead of 900 degrees, we only get 300. Still hot enough to cook a human. So there was an Alaskan scientist who was flying a small plane up in Alaska. Well, let me go over to the board. At the same time, I've got to show you what he saw. He saw these horrible scars in a checkerboard pattern across huge swaths of Alaska's wilderness. He didn't know what it was. It turns out what he was looking at. You will see that these scars are actually road cuts where heavy seismic equipment drove across the tundra. But there was a side effect of this. Not only are these scars going to take thousands of years to clear out, if nothing more is done, because it was at a different angle and they smashed down the tundra, guess what happened? The permafrost began to leak and thaw out, releasing how many tons, billions of tons of methane and CO2 from all these tracks. So this is in the northeastern part of the state of Alaska. Alaskans, don't you care? Of course, this is just outside of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Unfortunately, because of what the Orange Man has done, the testing in the same pattern and the same way will begin in the National Wildlife Refuge itself as early as December 2018. So the oil and gas industry knows this is going on. They see it all the time. They fly over it. But apparently there's millions and billions of barrels of oil and gas underneath there. And they want that. They don't care if they turn this area into a wasteland. Who cares? Nobody can see it. Nobody comes up here. It's just the wildlife, and who cares about them, right? We're headed towards a methane bomb. This happened over 12,000 years ago, where apparently loads of methane exploded and caused a massive heat wave across the globe. The reason that the scientists who are testing for this hypothesis can't find anything is because methane stays methane only for a couple hundred years, maybe 100 years, and then half of it turns into CO2 and the other half turns into water vapor. That's why they can't find traces of the last methane bomb. Unfortunately, that was not all. A new study has been released just as of Monday. Let's go over the board and find out what and who and where. So they believe that the methane releases in the Arctic have been underestimated. The new research shows that the microbes will produce considerable volumes of methane. Now, as they point out in the study, this methane that will be released from microbes will last about 24 to about 40 years at the most. Then it will turn into CO2 and water vapor. See, water vapor is kind of neutral on climate change. CO2 makes it go up for hundreds of years. Now, this is completely preventable. We don't have to do this to our precious Arctic refuge in the Alaska. Can you do something about it? Of course you can. It's called what you put in your mouth and how you move yourself. Those are two great big places we can fix problems. Because of the time shortage that I have personally, I'm not able to continuously do the conversion from meat to vegetarian vegan. However, I've decided what I'll do is I'll just make a whole video itself on each one of these issues. And that way we'll have the environmental news section and what you can do section. Except that there'll be two separate videos. That way if you don't want to watch one type, you can always watch the other. So what will happen in the future is just unbelievable. Starvation, people fighting with each other, joining gangs, and then finally, after a while, there'll only be one food source left. Pretty nightmarish. Are we willing to do nothing? Sit and keep doing nothing? I definitely appreciate all the last subscribers and the last commenters and the ups and downs, and until next time,